Hello, and welcome to Nighttime Tales, a haven where stories come to life under the gentle hush of evening, guiding you toward a peaceful night's rest. Tonight, we bring you another calming tale, one crafted to ease your mind and invite a sense of tranquil calm. But first, let's take a few moments to prepare both body and mind for a restful sleep. Make yourself comfortable, and with each slow inhale and gentle exhale, feel the day's worries slowly melt away. It can be challenging to separate from the bustle of the day, especially as bedtime nears. Yet remember, the less we fret about falling asleep, the more our minds can let go of lingering tension. Let the gentle flow of your breathing soothe any concerns and allow tonight's story to guide you into a deep, restorative slumber. Now get cozy and let the soft glow of nighttime tales envelope you. Enjoy this story and may it lead you into a serene and restful sleep. In the chilly and enchanting northern wilderness, there lived a gentle woodcutter, a widower who cherished his beloved daughter, Daria. She filled his days with happiness. Yet, as time passed, he felt the longing for companionship and decided to remarry. Daria, understanding her father's wish, welcomed her new stepmother and stepsister Maria, hoping they would bring her some friendship. However, the peace in their forest home was fleeting. The critical stepmother, jealous of Daria's beauty and grace that seemed to outshine Maria's, began to harbor resentment. Despite Daria's best efforts to win her over, she found herself on the receiving end of constant criticism. Fortunately for Daria, she had a steadfast companion in Victor, a large dog gifted to her by her father. With a wolf-like appearance but a heart full of love, Victor was fiercely loyal to Daria. When her father set off on a journey to trade wood for supplies, she bid him farewell with Victor by her side, feeling apprehensive about the days ahead without him. As he rode away, her stepmother and stepsister merely shrugged off his departure. The day unfolded as it usually did, each person absorbed in their own tasks and exchanging few words. Yet beneath the surface, Daria's stepmother was secretly plotting to take advantage of her husband's absence and finally rid herself of Daria. As the afternoon waned and the early winter sun began its descent, Daria found herself lost in a book, up in her sleeping loft. The calmness was suddenly shattered by an uproar from the kitchen below. Curiosity piqued, Daria hurried down the stairs to see what was amiss. The front door stood wide open, allowing the cold air to sweep through the house while her stepmother appeared flustered and wringing her hands in distress. "Daria," she cried out dramatically. "The wind blew open the door and Victor has run away." Glancing around anxiously, Daria realized Victor was indeed missing. He was typically curled up beside the warmth of the stove, but was nowhere in sight. Realizing this grim truth, Daria swiftly wrapped herself in a woolen shawl and rushed outside calling for Victor. She searched their modest homestead thoroughly, checking every nook and cranny where he might be hiding, but found no trace of him. Returning to the front door breathless with worry, she asked her stepmother if she had seen which direction he had taken. With a sly gesture towards the path that led deep into the woods, her stepmother replied deceitfully, "Hurry, you might still catch him." Without taking a moment to put on her warmer clothes, Daria dashed toward the path, her heart set on finding Victor and bringing him back to the safety of the home. As she vanished into the gathering shadows, her stepmother closed the door behind her, sharing a knowing smile with Maria. They opened the pantry door to find Victor comfortably seated inside, happily munching on a stack of pancakes, completely unaware of Daria's frantic calls. Delighted by the clever trick, Maria and her mother chuckled softly as Victor sniffed at the front door, realizing that Daria was nowhere in sight. They settled down to savor the rest of the pancakes, still warm from the oven. Meanwhile, deep within the woods, Daria continued her search for Victor. Lost in her thoughts and oblivious to the approaching dusk, she pressed on, failing to acknowledge that Victor, a sturdy northern dog, would likely find his way home without much trouble, and that perhaps it would be wiser to wait until morning to continue her search. She could have at least grabbed a heavier coat before heading out. But who could blame her for wanting so desperately to find her best friend? She reassured herself that if she just turned around the next bend or called out a little louder, surely Victor would come bounding back to her. In this way, she ventured farther than she intended. By the time she realized she was lost and far from home, night had fully enveloped the forest. Soon enough, Daria found herself wandering aimlessly through the dim light, over gnarled tree roots, around large boulders, and beneath drooping branches, all while calling for Victor. Yet deep inside, she feared that her beloved dog was nowhere nearby. As darkness deepened around her, it became clear that seeking shelter until dawn would be the wisest choice. Eventually, she stumbled upon a small clearing surrounded by thick evergreen trees. Slipping beneath their protective branches, she wrapped her shawl tightly around herself. This spot provided some refuge from the biting wind, and she noticed how moonlight filtered through the trees, casting a gentle glow over her surroundings. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it would have to do for now. So she leaned against a sturdy tree trunk and began to drift into slumber. Suddenly, something strange happened. The air around her grew noticeably colder, pulling her from her drowsy state. A tingling sensation danced across her nose as whispers seemed to echo through the forest. Turning slightly to glance behind her, she felt an unfamiliar presence. Or perhaps it was merely a shift in energy surrounding her. When she turned back toward the clearing with renewed focus, what met her eyes was almost unbelievable. Standing not far away was a tall figure. At first, she couldn't quite make out who he was. He waved his arm gracefully from side to side, creating an arc in the air. As he moved, the atmosphere around him sparkled with tiny glimmers. Delicate, shimmering particles floated from his fingertips on the gentle breeze. Wherever they landed, on branches or the forest floor, a new color blossomed. Vibrant green leaves and grass turned into pristine white. It felt as though he were a painter, transforming and refreshing the woodland around him. Captivated, she watched as he finally seemed to notice her presence. He paused his mysterious movements, looking at her with surprise evident in his eyes. Daria found herself utterly speechless. Words eluded her completely. It was he who eventually broke the silence, asking warmly, "Goodness, where did you come from?" Yet Daria could only gaze at him, struck by his striking appearance. Noticing her silence, he crossed his arms and studied her thoughtfully, mulling over an answer of his own. Then, with a slight shake of his head, as if coming to a conclusion, "Well then," he said, "you can't remain here. I'm about to blanket this entire forest in a deep winter chill, and it won't be cozy for sleeping." Finally finding her voice, Daria assured him that she didn't wish to cause any disturbance. After all, being lost in the woods again was far worse than simply feeling cold. She didn't want to wander through the darkness once more. The man shook his head skeptically while brushing off some stray frost from his trousers. He regarded her for a moment before shrugging. "Very well then, I'll continue," he replied. Then, almost apologetically, he added, "I have a great deal to accomplish tonight." Daria nodded earnestly and wrapped her shawl tighter around herself, tucking her feet further beneath her skirt. Trying to muster some bravery, she said cheerfully, "Good luck. I'll just go back to sleep." The man stepped back into the depths of the clearing, but glanced over his shoulder at her a couple of times, as if hesitating. Then he stretched out his arms wide once more, and a dazzling spray of winter magic resumed. Under the moonlight, it looked as though diamonds blanketed the forest floor and every nearby surface. However, the temperature dropped significantly. Daria was determined to stay brave despite the biting cold now enveloping her. Her chin began to tremble as she shivered lightly. Soon enough, she felt her teeth chattering softly in response to the chill. The tall, striking stranger paused mid-task and turned to face her, suddenly halting his efforts once more. With purposeful strides, he approached Daria again and spoke gently. "Miss, it's clear you're not dressed for this winter weather, and I worry that tonight will grow even colder. Might you consider heading homeward to find a warm fire?" Daria's expression fell at his words. She nodded slowly, explaining with a hint of reluctance that she had lost her way while searching for her dog and had no idea how to return home. Upon hearing this, the man's demeanor softened, revealing a friendly smile. He bowed deeply and introduced himself. "I am King Frost. I rule over the northern lands, and sometimes I even share my chill with those in the warmer regions." With a playful wink, he added, "People here tend to overlook me, but those in sunnier places find me quite remarkable." Daria returned his smile and curtsied in response, introducing herself in turn. Yet despite her best efforts to appear polite, the Frost King noticed her shivering frame and realized she needed assistance if she was to endure the night in his frosty forest. He gestured for her to follow him as he said, "My sleigh is just ahead, where you'll find warm blankets and refreshments to revive you. Come along. Let me guide you." Feeling grateful for his kindness, Daria trailed a few steps behind as they crossed the clearing. Her leather shoes sank into the soft snow beneath her feet, and she marveled at how this place had been lush with grass not long ago. Her attention was soon captured by a gleaming white sleigh nestled among the tall trees. It was hitched to a magnificent snow-white horse, and its silver runners sparkled in the moonlight like something out of a dream. The Frost King swung open the sleigh door with a flourish and bowed graciously, inviting her inside. Daria approached hesitantly but gratefully, before settling onto a plush red velvet seat draped with cozy woolen blankets. She eagerly wrapped herself up, seeking warmth for her face and hands. Glancing up, she watched as the Frost King snapped his fingers, summoning a silver tray that appeared from thin air, holding a steaming mug of mulled cider. With a soft gasp of joy, she accepted the mug from him, and he beamed with delight. Leaning against the closed door of the sleigh, he seemed ready for a heartfelt conversation. His striking brow furrowed in thought as he asked how she had found herself lost in the depths of the forest all alone. As she savored the warm cider, Daria began to share the tale of her loyal dog, Victor, who had slipped away from their cozy cottage and vanished into the woods. The Frost King listened intently and then prompted her to describe her home. Was it grand or modest, made of stone or timber? And did it feature a garden with a fence or perhaps a chicken coop? Daria painted a vivid picture of the snug wooden house with its sharply sloped roof, gesturing gracefully as she spoke of the intricate carvings around the windows that her father had lovingly crafted. She described their yard, complete with a kitchen garden, a hay shed, and a small barn, all encircled by a charming woven wood fence. As she illustrated her home in his mind's eye, he couldn't help but smile at her evident affection for it, knowing precisely where it stood. With a playful wink, he produced an elegantly wrapped box from behind him and presented it to her. "I have two delightful pieces of news," he announced. "The first is that these are the most exquisite chocolates you will ever taste." Daria blushed as she accepted the gift and lifted the lid to reveal the delicate confections within. The Frost King continued, "The second piece of good news is that I know exactly where your house is, and I will take you back there." Overwhelmed with joy, Daria clapped her hands together excitedly and set the box on her lap. She expressed her gratitude profusely before offering him one of the chocolates. He took it graciously, savoring its flavor for just a moment before settling beside her in the sleigh. Daria had expected him to feel cold to the touch. Instead, he radiated an inexplicable warmth. He was both dazzling and comforting at once. As he encouraged the horse to move forward and the sleigh glided smoothly along, she cast him a sidelong glance. Until that evening, winter had always seemed harsh and desolate to her. However, meeting the Frost King had transformed her view entirely. Nestling deeper into her plush seat and enjoying the swift motion of the sleigh, she felt his presence keenly. Her emotions were not frigid, they were filled with joy and comfort. Time seemed to slip away from her as the sleigh ride transformed into a journey through a wondrous dreamscape. The trees appeared to lift their branches in reverence as the Frost King glided past, while the forest filled with the gentle sound of countless tinkling bells. The snow and ice he had crafted sparkled like precious gems, adorning every inch of the landscape with a touch of enchantment. Nothing complemented the scene more beautifully than the luminous moonlight, which bathed everything in its soft glow. The Frost King was a delightful companion throughout their adventure. He sang merry songs, shared captivating tales of his exploits, and kindly asked about her life as the daughter of a woodcutter. Though she felt her stories paled in comparison to his thrilling escapades, she opened up about her life. Daria spoke of her father, stepmother, and stepsister sharing snippets of their daily existence at home. While these stories seemed ordinary to her, she cherished his interest and wanted him to continue talking. The Frost King found her genuine nature charming and relished every moment of her storytelling. Above all, he admired her fondness for the simple joys of life in the challenging northern realm he governed. Eventually, the soothing sound of the sleigh gliding through the snowy woods faded as they reached her home's yard. A wave of bittersweet emotion washed over Daria. What had begun with uncertainty had blossomed into an unforgettable evening. As they arrived, the Frost King swung open the door wide and offered his hand to help her down. "Be careful, mind your step," he said with a warm smile. "It seems someone has covered your entire garden in ice and snow." Daria chuckled softly as she began to remove the lovely woolen blanket draped over her shoulders. "No need for that. Keep it," he urged gently. "Think of it as a gift from me to you." Blushing slightly, she nodded in agreement, and he added, playfully, "You might find it useful on your next nighttime adventure in the woods." When Daria opened her front door, she was greeted by Victor, who was eagerly wagging his tail. She realized he must have returned home while she was away, a comforting thought that made her smile as she buried her face in his soft fur and embraced him tightly. As she stood up and gently closed the door behind her, she peeked through a small crack and caught one last glimpse of the Frost King guiding his magnificent horse away. Just before disappearing from view, she could have sworn he winked at her one final time. Daria's stepmother and stepsister put on an elaborate show of joy as they welcomed her back, feigning concern as if they had been anxious all night long. Deep down, however, the stepmother was far from pleased that Daria had returned, especially with such an astonishing story to share. She might have dismissed it as nothing more than a fanciful dream if it weren't for the exquisite blanket Daria now possessed, its fine craftsmanship indicating it must have cost a small fortune. Later that evening, the woodcutter came home and listened to his daughter's tale as with a hint of skepticism. Still, his overwhelming feeling was one of relief. The news of Daria's adventures in the forest had caused him much distress, and he found it hard to believe that Victor would rush into the woods so recklessly. With a stern look directed at the dog, he cautioned him not to trouble Daria any further and insisted that Victor stop begging for pancakes by the stove. Sitting patiently beside the oven, Victor tilted his head and appeared genuinely sorry. As life returned to its normal rhythm, winter settled in as anticipated. Yet Daria felt a shift within herself. She found herself daydreaming often and entertaining thoughts she had never considered before. Before her journey into the woods, she had never imagined a life beyond the simple cottage she called home. However, her encounter with the Frost King had opened her eyes to wonders she had never dreamed possible. At night, she would dream of his warm smile and wonder about the enchanting places he might be visiting. She thought about the incredible marvels unfolding under his majestic command. Several weeks after their meeting, one morning following a heavy snowstorm, Daria opened her front door to find a beautifully wrapped box waiting on the doorstep. It was adorned with shimmering silver paper and tied with a soft green velvet bow. Carefully bringing the package inside, she unwrapped it slowly, taking care not to tear the lovely paper. When she lifted the lid, she discovered a stunning velvet cloak nestled within. The royal blue fabric was embellished with delicate silver snowflake embroidery that captivated both her stepsister and stepmother, who couldn't resist running their fingers over its luxurious texture. Draping the cloak around her shoulders, Daria leaned in to feel its softness against her cheek before pulling it close in a joyful embrace. Daria knew that the cloak she cherished was a present from the Frost King. While the cloak itself was enchanting, it was the thoughtfulness behind the gift that filled her heart with happiness. However, her stepmother was far from pleased with this extravagant token. She insisted that Daria stow away the silly cape and concentrate on her chores instead. Furthermore, she cruelly commanded Daria to clear the entire front walkway of snow, a particularly harsh request given the frigid temperatures and no sense of urgency. Yet, Daria's cheerful spirit remained unbroken. She put on her old coat and went about her tasks as if in a gentle dream. The Frost King had returned to her life. Throughout the long winter days and nights drifted by quietly. The northern landscape was dreary, with no neighbors nearby to visit or entertain the woodcutter and his family. Still, he found contentment in his home and work, while Daria held on to hopeful dreams of possibly crossing paths with the Frost King once more. In contrast, her stepmother's and stepsister's envy festered with each passing day. Their resentment intensified after another heavy snowfall brought yet another surprise for Daria. At dawn, as snowdrifts surrounded their little cottage, she opened the door to find a second gift wrapped in shimmering gold paper, adorned with a white ribbon. With great care, Daria brought this splendid package inside and began to unwrap it in front of her family once again. Her father watched from his spot by the stove while her stepsister and stepmother leaned forward eagerly to catch a glimpse of what lay within. Inside the box were the softest, most exquisitely crafted boots any of them had ever seen, elaborately embroidered with colorful designs and lined with warm wool. Daria took off one sock and slipped her foot into one of those beautiful boots, delighting in its luxurious softness. They felt as though they had been custom made just for her. In her blissful moment, she didn't notice her stepmother's growing irritation. But soon enough, the woman could hold back no longer. "Well," she said pointedly, "Maria, my dear daughter, you must venture into the forest, discover what marvelous gifts your stepsister receives from this King Frost she has encountered. Perhaps he will come to your aid as well, and then you too shall receive many more exquisite treasures." Maria gazed at her mother in astonishment. Surely she couldn't be serious about sending her out into the biting cold for such a pointless task, Maria thought. Yet her cunning mother was unwavering in her decision. She instructed the woodcutter to take Maria into the woods without a coat and leave her there. Daria and her father tried to persuade the stepmother to reconsider, but she remained resolute. Later that afternoon, he hesitantly loaded his stepdaughter onto his sled and ventured into the forest, unsure of where exactly to leave her. As he prepared to depart, he offered her his coat, assuring her that he wouldn't be gone for long and that she should stay safe until morning. Maria turned down his gesture, claiming that his coat smelled like a horse and that soon enough she would be showered with gifts from the Frost King. Unable to change her mind, the sorrowful man shook his head and made his way back home. Meanwhile, Maria found herself in a clearing surrounded by towering trees, stamping her feet and clapping her hands together in eager anticipation of meeting the Frost King. She adopted a pitiful tone and called out for help. Unfortunately, no grand figure emerged from the snow. Instead, she only succeeded in scaring away any woodland creatures that might have been nearby. As night fell, frustration began to brew within her. Where was her savior with his delightful gifts and warm drinks? Why hadn't he come for her as he had for Daria? No amount of fussing seemed to summon him, and soon tears of self-pity streamed down her cheeks as she huddled beneath the shelter of a pine bough. Just as she was about to turn back homeward, she heard the distant sound of jingling harness bells approaching. To her delight, an elegant white sleigh appeared on the path, drawn by a magnificent white horse, and seated within it was none other than the Frost King. She felt certain of it. He was more strikingly handsome than anything Daria had ever described. Truly captivating. Eager not to go unnoticed, Maria dashed into the path of his sleigh, ready to play the role of damsel in distress. He halted the horse and regarded her with curiosity. "What brings you out here alone in this winter wonderland?" he inquired, raising an eyebrow at her unexpected presence. With a playful smile that she hoped was charming, Maria shifted from one foot to the other, explaining how she had lost her way and was feeling terribly cold. Could he perhaps lend her a hand? The Frost King paused, gazing thoughtfully at the sky as if weighing her plea. "I have quite a bit of work to attend to in the woods tonight," he replied. "But you may accompany me for a while, and once I'm done, I shall ensure you make it back home safely." Unfazed by the thought of interrupting his duties, she eagerly tugged at the door of his sleigh, signaling her desire to climb aboard. With a flick of his wrist, he opened it with a hint of reluctance. Though she felt a twinge of disappointment at not being treated like royalty, she seized the opportunity and hopped in. Wrapping herself snugly in the luxurious blanket that lay within, she secretly hoped it would be hers to keep. After all, Daria's exquisite woolen wrap had originated from this very place. As their journey commenced, Maria cleared her throat dramatically. The Frost King halted the horse and turned to her with an expression of patience. In a syrupy voice, she asked, "Will you not provide me with some refreshment?" A knowing look crossed the icy king's face as if he had just uncovered a truth about her. Then, with a glimmer of mischief in his eyes, he produced a simple cup of hot water and a slice of bread. Presenting them to her on a plate, he encouraged her to enjoy the meal. Maria's disappointment was palpable. This was not what she had envisioned. Had she ventured into the freezing woods only to be treated like an ordinary girl? No, she thought indignantly. That was certainly not her expectation. As the sleigh continued on its path, she cleared her throat again. "How much longer will your work last?" she asked petulantly. "I'm feeling rather chilly and wish to return home." The Frost King didn't even glance her way as he replied, "Ah, yes, young lady. I've just realized that getting you home is indeed my top priority, since I doubt we will find joy in each other's company for much longer. With a hint of irony in his voice, he added, I believe I know the way to your house. Maria was taken aback by his nonchalant response and felt deep disappointment wash over her. As he swiftly turned the sleigh toward her cottage, she huddled under the blanket in a sulky silence. Her mother would surely be displeased when she returned without any gifts in hand. The Frost King graciously set Maria down at the cottage, but without any formal farewells, he slipped away from the yard before she could even turn the doorknob. Once inside, only her stepfather and Daria seemed relieved to see her return. Maria's mother, however, felt a twinge of disappointment that her encounter with the Frost King had been so fleeting. Her dismay grew as she realized that Maria had come back empty-handed. Even the blanket she had used during the sleigh ride had vanished with him. Meanwhile, Daria felt a wave of relief wash over her. She was thankful that Maria had safely returned from the snowy woods, but secretly delighted that the Frost King had not shown her sister the same affection. Daria treasured the memories of their conversations and the gifts he had bestowed upon her. She refused to believe that he showered every young girl lost in the forest with such treasures. Life at their homestead resumed its typical winter rhythm. The storms ceased, and hints of spring began to emerge. Although this season of renewal usually brought joy to their home, Daria felt a different sentiment this year. She understood that with winter's end would come the absence of visits from the Frost King, leaving her with an unexpected sense of emptiness. Yet Daria was in for an enchanting surprise. After weeks of warming temperatures, April unveiled an unexpected twist. One morning, the family woke to find a thick blanket of snow covering everything outside. Frost adorned the windows while sunlight sparkled across the landscape. Eager for another surprise, Daria opened the front door and discovered a beautifully wrapped box nestled in the snow on their doorstep. The box was cloaked in soft purple fabric and tied with a silver ribbon. To her delight, she spotted the Frost King standing nearby, his smile wide as he awaited by his sleigh under the trees. He appeared even more striking than she remembered, his entire being shimmering in the late winter sun like something divine. Breaking through the moment's enchantment, he gestured toward the box and cheerfully urged her, "Open it." Standing in the doorway, Daria carefully untied the ribbon and lifted the lid, letting out a gasp of joy. Inside lay a breathtaking diamond tiara, something she had never seen before, and certainly not one so magnificent. And she could only cover her mouth in astonishment at its beauty. As she gazed up at the Frost King, disbelief washed over her, and she shook her head, uncertain about accepting such a lavish gift. What could a woodcutter's daughter possibly do with a diamond crown? The Frost King stepped closer, treading softly through the snow until he reached her door. With a heavy heart, he confessed that he had fallen in love with a beautiful girl he had encountered in the forest and no longer wished to reign over winter alone. Bowing slightly and placing his hand over his heart, he asked Daria to become his wife and the beloved queen of snow and ice. For a brief moment, Daria was captivated by the exquisite tiara that sparkled brilliantly in the sunlight. Yet deep down, she understood that she would accept. This was clearly her fate, and joy filled her heart as she realized that the Frost King was truly her perfect partner. Daria and the king exchanged their vows in a simple yet elegant ceremony at his ice palace nestled in the eternal winter landscape. Of course, Victor was there too, bursting with happiness as the most joyful dog one could imagine. Not only did the royal pup indulge in pancakes at every meal, but he also felt completely at home in the chilly palace, thanks to his warm fur coat. Although Daria was accustomed to the warmth of summer as the queen of snow and ice, she occasionally ventured to warmer places, bringing with her a refreshing breeze of coolness. So, next time you feel that crisp autumn chill or delight in a sudden summer rainstorm, remember that she is nearby and know that when the moment is right, she and the Frost King will reunite once more, restoring the magic of a winter wonderland for all to enjoy.